subject being witches, I've got my review for The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum, and it was written in 1900. And yeah, actually, The Wicked Witch of the West doesn't play as big a part of as the book, as opposed to what she is in the movie, actually. But the small part that she is in the book, she's pretty cool, pretty decent, effective, memorable villain. So I appreciate the book for that. But so yes, the story starts out like kind of like the movie does. The girl in Dorothy Gale in the book, she's much younger than she's portrayed in the movie, but she gets caught up in a cyclone with her little dog Toto, and they are taken to the magical land of Oz. And her house, like in the movie, everybody I'm sure seen, her house comes and falls softly down. Well, not too softly, because it when the house falls into Munchkin Land, it squashes the Wicked Witch of the East, and you see her legs sticking out from underneath the house, and she's wearing in the book she's got a set of silver slippers. And Dorothy, being confused where she is and everything, and sees the Munchkins, and they explain to her, "Well, you must be a great sorceress." And she goes, "Oh, I'm no sorceress. I'm just here by happenstance, and it's so horrible that my house fell on this person." And they go, "Oh no, you're a hero to our people and everything." And they come forth the Good Witch of the North, which I don't remember her name being given in the book, but she's a little old lady, and she kind of Dorothy's explains her situation and says she wants to get back home to her Aunt Em in Kansas. And they all suggest, her and the Munchkins including, suggest she make her way to Oz. And she's also gifted the silver slippers that were on the feet of the Wicked Witch of the East. And so Dorothy is given a kiss, and that kiss leaves a mark on her by the Good Witch of the North. And she makes her way follows the yellow brick road, and is on her way to see the powerful Wizard of Oz. And in doing so, she first encounters the Scarecrow, who's up on a pole doing his thing, but he doesn't seem to be doing too good a job of scaring crows. But he kind of talks to her, and she convinces her to get her down off the pole. And she says, "Well, why do you escort me?" And I'm sure he keeps going on about wanting brains, and he's excuse me. She says, "Well, the wizard's going to help me get home. I'm sure he can help you with get brains." And he goes, "Oh, okay, that's a great idea." She goes. He comes and goes with her, and then they come to the rusted woodsman in the wood, and they do the thing with the oil can and get him loose and free him. And he's wishing he could feel compassion and have feeling and love and stuff in him, and have a heart once again, like, because he was human at one time. Something happened, and he was turned into this construct as being a Tin Woodman. That being said, then they come across the Cowardly Lion, and he's talks about always all being afraid of everything. And they said, well, he wishes he had courage. So once again, they say, "Well, Oz is going to give us these gifts. I'm sure he could help you get your courage." So that being said, they're on their way, and they come in some obstacles, and it all requires something from them to use the things that they think they're lacking. So they just don't realize it. It takes some critical thinking to deal with some of these obstacles, which the Scarecrow does and problem solves. The Woodman, it needs some heart and compassion in the Woodman in some situations, and the Woodman's able to provide that. And there's numerous times where he's fearful and afraid, but he stands up and stands his ground and overcomes his fear. So Lion has a courage. He might be afraid, but he always has a courage within him. So they overcome some obstacles and make their way to the city. They don't refer to the Emerald City at first. It's called the City of Emeralds, but later in the story, it's referred to as the Emerald City. And they make their way to the Emerald City, and they're greeted by a guard that says, "Okay, I can grant you entry, but you have to put on these," which I thought was a kind of cool and weird, a little weird at the same time. But they have these little goggles. He keeps in a box, and they have to look through these goggles, and everything's when they look through this, everything's in an emerald green. And so they look in through these goggles, and they go inside the city, and Oz greets them eat with each one of them individual, and he takes a different form for each time he meets with each of them. And the only way he's going to make a deal with them to help them out and give them the things he wants is Dorothy has to go and defeat the Wicked Witch of the West. So they agree, and they're going to go defeat the Wicked Witch of the West, and in doing so, they get caught up in some other obstacles and things, and when they do start to enter the lands that are encroaching upon the lands of the Wicked Witch of the West, she launches an assault of wolves and bees and crows, and each one of them comes up with a way to defeat and overthrow them. The only obstacle they can't defeat and overthrow is when the Wicked Witch she has a magical cap that she can only use 3 times. She used twice before, but she knows she has to use it this last time. She calls the flying monkeys to her aid, and the flying monkeys kind of defeat the 2 biggest threats to the to any of them. The Scarecrow, they scatter him and throw him about, and his straws thrown all over the place. And the Tin Man, they rough up, and they throw and dent him up, and he's dashed upon the rocks. And then they enslave and tie up the lion. But they're really not able to do anything or any harm to Dorothy because she has that mark, that gift, kiss that she was given from the Witch of the North. So Dorothy's caught and put in a servitude for the Wicked Witch of the West, and she's doing all kinds of chores for her. And the Wicked Witch is a little afraid of her because Dorothy can go around water and sees her using water and stuff like that. She can never quite get to the shoes that Dorothy has, and she wants those silver shoes that she knows have a magical enchantment upon them. So that being said, she comes up with a plan. She's gonna have an iron bar, and she's gonna levitate it and put it at tripping level for Dorothy, because she's gonna turn it invisible also. So Dorothy does eventually trip over the iron bar, and one of the shoes comes flying off, and the Wicked Witch gets it, and Dorothy's still in possession of the other one, and neither one of them is going to concede to giving the other the shoe back. Dorothy gets mad and frustrated with her and throws a bucket of water on her. Well, we know what happens to the witch when she gets hit with water. She melts and falls away. So they're come up. She's able to. After she does this, the Winkies are happy, and she's this enslaved race that the Winkies are in a race that the witch has enslaved to her servitude. So they're happy with Dorothy, and they kind of respect her and her friends as their new leaders in that, and they try to help Dorothy out and try to send her on her way, but they're not quite sure how to get back to the Emerald City. So, they said, use the cap, and then Dorothy takes the cap and calls the flying monkeys to her service, and they get the group back to the Oz, great and powerful. But it's this time they find out the Oz really isn't as great and powerful as everyone thought. He is what they call Humbug, and they refer to him and call him Humbug a bunch of times, and he even admits to them that he is Humbug, but he doesn't have any ill will or intent towards anybody. He just a man of circumstance, and that was his thing in the life when he was back in. I think he came from Oklahoma. Um, so he does what he does, and yeah, he finally does little shyster type moves and tactics, and he fills the scarecrow's head full of needles and pins, and tells him, "Oh, look at you now! He's got these pins and needles sticking out of the top of his head." He goes, "Oh, now he stuffed that in his head." He goes, "Oh, you're sharp. The scarecrow now thinks, well, I'm sharp. I've got brains now." He puts a clock inside the heart of the Tin Man, and the ticking of the clock in the Tin Man's chest. He thinks he has a heart, and he gives the lion a drink, and I thought it was funny. It's kind of a drink he calls courage, and he gave the lion liquid courage now. But they actually they all had these things, these traits that they thought they were lacking. They did have them all inside of them all along. It's just things needed to happen to bring it out. But now they believe that they really do possess the gifts that they wanted from the wizard. The last problem is Dorothy needs to get home. Well, the wizard comes up with a plan. He's got these stores of this green fabric. He says, well, and he's saying Dorothy's tired of ruling in Oz, and he wants to get back to his own place, and they're gonna craft a balloon, and they go about crafting this balloon, but the wizard gets caught up in the balloon, and he gets caught in an updraft, and he's whisked and taken away, but Dorothy's left behind, and they're all downtrodden and dejected, and then the guard says, well, your best bet now is, if you want to get home, why don't you go see Glinda, the Good Witch of the South? Well, that brings the team. They go, well, we're going to help Dorothy get home. So her three companions from before help her get to Glinda, the Good Witch of the South, and they go through more obstacles, and they're finally at this one impasse where it's the land of I think they're referred to the land of the Hammerheads, and there's some type of being that kind of like projects themselves and stops and knocks them back every time they try to get past this one part of the land of Oz to get to Glinda. She finally uses the cap of the monkeys to get past the pole, to bring them and carry them to over the land of the Hammerheads, and they're now in front of a wall, and the scarecrow comes up, and the Tin Men come up with a way to construct a ladder to scale the wall, and they get to the other side of the wall, and it's a land of these little porcelain or China doll people, and it was kind of weird and trippy, but this guy Lewis Carroll's got this guy comes up with some imaginative beings and characters. Alice in Wonderland's got nothing on Frank Baum and his imagination in the land of Oz. So they travel through this land, and they finally come to and meet Glinda, and Glinda said, well, she goes, Dorothy, you have the power in you. Just use your shoes and tap your shoes together, and you can get back home. She doesn't have to say there's no place like home. She just clicks her shoes back together, and then all she says is, take me home to Aunt Em. And as she's flying through, and it takes her through the air and through a kind of like a wonky multiverse type scenario, and Dorothy's now but as doing so, the shoes become lost somewhere before she returns back to Kansas. But Dorothy's now back in Kansas, and I don't think once Dorothy realizes she's back home and realizes home is where the heart is, things don't look as dull and drab and gray as they once did to Dorothy. from before. And then the other characters each become rulers of their own domains. The Woodman becomes a ruler of the Winkies that were once enslaved by the Wicked Witch of the West. Um, the lion had previously defeated a great beast in a forested area, and he becomes the king. Finally becomes king of the jungle. So he's got his little domain he rules in Oz, and the Scarecrow is now the ruler of the Emerald City, and that's where the story ends. And Dorothy's back home in Kansas, and if you're an RPG player, fan of sci-fi, fantasy, classic literature, this book is for anybody. Within 122 pages, Frank Baum achieves a great task, a great feat of great character development, lovable characters, noteworthy characters, and just great imagination and world building. I can't tell you how grateful I am to finally have read this book and not just seen the movie. So that book, 10 out of 10 for that book. Books for everybody. Everybody can get something out of it. So that's my review of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.